It is a joy to be in Green Bay. As I arrived today, the business manager picked me up and we went over to the Holy Land, to Lambeau. I had never been there before, and part of my story is when I was first in seminary in Dubuque, Iowa, it was always a battle between Bear fans and Green Bay fans. And I found the Bear fans to be so obnoxious, I had no other choice. No, I've loved Green Bay forever. The other side of that is 2 weeks ago I was in Pittsburgh doing exactly what I'm doing here today, and I told them that my favorite colors were black and gold, only because that was the same color as the Iowa Hawkeyes. That didn't fly very well, and then I told them I was going to be cheering for the green and gold in a couple weeks, and I think they really wondered about who I was and my credentials completely. But I'd like to talk about three things today. First of all, the reason I tell you three things is you can count them off and you'll know how soon I'm going to quit. The second thing is I've been a teacher and I can get carried away if I don't stay close to my notes. So, first of all, what is Unbound? The second, why I would be here, why I think Unbound is an important charity for us to respond to. And then to just show you how Unbound works through some of the three people that I sponsor, how their lives have possibility. And that's what Unbound is all about. The mission of Unbound is that we might invite people to enter into a one-to-one relationship with someone in one of 20 countries around the world, someone you do not know, a child or an elderly person. It is a lay Catholic sponsorship organization, which is so important to hear, a lay Catholic sponsorship organization. What you can do through choosing to support someone is to give encouragement and so much help. For $1 to us is a fortune to some others in other countries. As you choose a specific individual with monthly support, that will directly help, especially a child with education or an elderly person with medications or other needs that they might have. So Unbound started in 1981. A Christian brother had been working in Guatemala. He came back to Kansas City and met with his brother, and he began asking people in that neighborhood to send letters, send monthly checks to people that he knew were in tremendous need. And eventually, this Bob Henson went back to Guatemala. He established the Unbound Center, which is still there in Guatemala, about 5,000 feet up in the mountains. And today, this organization has grown to sponsoring over 311,000 persons in over 20 countries. I come to invite you to be a part of that. So how did I get involved in this and why am I doing it? Well, I have been sponsoring someone for 22 years. A priest came to the parish where I was pastor, and I signed up and I've been at it ever since. It's a wonderful experience to begin to enter into the life of another. I've been a priest for 45 years. I come from Davenport, Iowa. I actually retired in Bettendorf, Iowa, just down the street from the parish where I had served for my final 15 years of active duty. It was active duty because when I went there, it was about 700 families. When I retired, there were 1,900 families, and I was alone. And so you know what happens when things like that happen. My health gave out, and Unbound called me one day and invited me to begin traveling and preaching for them. When I retired, I was recovering from cancer, and I was also facing yet another back surgery. I was pretty feeble at the time, but about 6 months later, I woke up, I was upright, I was walking, and I began to believe that God was asking me to do something more in my life. And so it was about that time that I responded and said I would be traveling for Unbound around the country. I just didn't realize how much I would be traveling. This January I've been in New York, Pittsburgh. Last week I was in South Carolina experiencing those storms. Took me a couple extra days to get home, and today I'm in Green Bay. So I have another trip to Philadelphia yet before Lent, and one to Oshkosh, and one to one of our parishes in Davenport. So I do get around, as I said to the deacon, I get around, I'm not a rounder. So anyway, this is the message I come to bring. Pope Francis gave me a whole new breath of life into the church today. He is a living model of love and care and mercy to every person he has met. And you have seen it on TV if you've had the privilege of being in Rome. I had 45 people from the parish there not long ago. He just reaches out, and you can feel him touching you with the warmth of Jesus Christ. He tells us that through our words and deeds and actions, you and I are the people who make Jesus Christ known in our world today by our love and our care for others. And I think that's how Unbound invites you to help people step from the darkness of poverty. There could be no better context than speaking from the Beatitudes today. The Beatitudes seem to describe behaviors that describe saints. We know good people that are saints in this world because we judge them by their actions and we know they are good. Being good, it is awesome to think that you and I can be those same people of being good to others. Our means are bringing the blessedness of your care to others. Simply mercy, justice, and righteousness to others, as God has extended those blessings to us, is our care for others. Simply providing for those in need is a blessing in itself that brings unequaled happiness. And this is what the baseline of the Beatitudes is always taught. Our deepest happiness does not come from caring for our own needs. That kind of happiness is fleeting, but sharing our gifts as God has blessed us last forever. So Unbound asks for a small gift of $36 monthly, but that is a gift of possibility to the future of some person that you choose. Now, I don't know about you, but that's about $1 a day. And I waste more than $1 a day on things I really don't need. You know, you stop by and you pick up something you don't need and you think about it later. But that gift gives food, education, clothing, and medical care. So I ask you to join our Unbound family. So let me share a little more of my personal history, why I know that a gift through Unbound is so helpful. My parents lost everything in the Depression. There would be some of you in this church tonight that would know of those days. They were married in 1938 and in 1935. In 1938, most of the land in Iowa was owned by Prudential Insurance Company, and they began to put young farmers on the land, not with much down payment. My parents moved to one of those farms. They were penniless, but they raised 6 of us children. The 4 of us who chose to go to college are college graduates, and that is the beginning of part of how I have been so blessed. That's how I can say I'm blessed. Catholic high school, Catholic university, seminary education, graduate school at Notre Dame. My parents only had an 8th grade education. Do I feel that they have given me a tremendous gift? Absolutely. From the hard work on the farm to enjoying many years of priesthood, I know how blessed I am. And so I always ask myself the question today, what can I provide for someone else? And as I come into this parish community, this church is much like the parish that I came from, retired from. It's energetic, it's friendly, as the pastor told me. They're friendly and they're active people in our parish. I think you'll like it here, and I already know I do. So this is what I am doing with Unbound. I support 3 persons. I'm not bragging about that, but it's part of the story of why I'm here. The first one that I support is a 15-year-old boy. He's in Nairobi. Isaac wrote through a social worker about 15 years ago that he wanted to study English and he wanted to learn math. Last July 2016, in his own handwriting, Isaac wrote me a letter in English, told me he's doing very well in math, and one day he will be an engineer to make life better in his country. Does that make sense of how your gift can help someone? I recently traveled to Guatemala to meet 2 of the other persons that I sponsored. While I was there, we went one day to San Pedro community, which is the largest of the communities in Guatemala that is being sponsored. They have been sponsored for 35 years from the very beginning of Unbound. And they were celebrating their 35th anniversary the day we were invited. So we took a boat across Lake Atitlan, and we arrived and we were greeted, they say, by 20,000 persons. They were so overjoyed at what Unbound had done for them. The whole entire community was there. A lady in her Mayan clothing greeted me, gave me her arm, and walked me up 4 blocks up the street where people were cheering and clapping and singing. And we went to the cathedral for a liturgy, and together we celebrated the liturgy. That day they had a little picnic in town. The women had killed and cleaned 200 chickens the day before. Oh, what a job. And they cooked it just out in an open dirt lot, few logs, big pots, but all of us ate. What we ate was a little bit of rice, some broth, a piece of squash, and a chunk of chicken. They gave us a spoon to eat with. So I learned a little bit that day to eat like the people in Guatemala did. I just picked up my chicken and I ate it with my hands. Little different experience for most of us. Thank God we had some napkins. We had it all over us. So, a few days later, I was able to meet the 2 people from Guatemala that I sponsor. One is a little 7-year-old girl. She and her mother and her 4-year-old brother came to see me. They live just down the street. I got to walk by their house. The father had deserted them. They had no idea where he was. He left them in this little 1-room shack. Rusty corrugated tin roof, some boards, dirt floor, and 1 piece of furniture. The only furniture they had in their house was a bed where the mother and the daughter and the son slept together. We wouldn't put our lawnmowers, that's what I tell the people at home when I took a picture of their place, we wouldn't put our lawnmowers in there to keep them away from the rain. And it's a rainy season down there often. She's in 7, by the way, she's started school, she's in kindergarten, and she's so thankful for the gifts. I brought her a little $4 teddy bear from Walmart. She was thrilled to death. The other person that I sponsor is a 67-year-old woman. She has been widowed for 34 years. She has no home. She moves between her 3 daughters that she raised alone. And interesting about her is she's going blind. She had cataract surgery, and she did not have the medication following her cataract surgery. And so now she's going blind. She gave me the last cloth she was able to embroider. It's a treasured gift. And I know that I'm facing cataract surgery soon, and because of where I live and because of how blessed I am and because I have good medical care and medical insurance, I don't expect to go blind. after cataract surgery. It is for those reasons that a few dollars gives them so much. So that's kind of the story. Anastasia, she's about this tall. And for that guy back there that could be a basketball player one day, I thought I was going to be one. She makes me look like a professional basketball player. She's so short. I gave her a little umbrella and she held it up right away. So we started one day being able to go out to these communities where they distribute what they use their money for. The money doesn't go directly to them. It goes into an account in the community that is watched over by a social worker. Every week the mothers have to meet and they have to discuss what their needs are so they just don't squander things. And they always have to come up with a goal for the year of what might make them self-sustaining in times ahead. We were able to go to one farm, one place. They got one goat and now they have 5. They got a couple of chickens, now they have many. They raise eggs, they sell chickens, they sell meat. And they also raise rabbits to sell the meat. They are self-sustaining as well. The father goes out and he rents some land from one of the rich landlords, kind of on the side of a mountain. I don't know how they do it. But we saw how they passed out what they asked for and comes out of their account. I stood in a line. It was probably 2 blocks long of people, mothers and their children coming through with what they had ordered or what they had asked to receive. I passed out blue jeans. Won't ever forget it. 8, 10, 12, and 14, stacks of them. And as I say in some places, they don't buy their jeans or their blue jeans or their Levi's with holes in them. They have holes in them when they come, and that's what they want to replace. So it is from that I ask you to join our Unbound family. At the table in the back of church in the gathering space, we have folders. There are pictures, little bios of those children or the elderly. I think we both have our feelings about who we would like to choose. When you see the pictures, you might identify with one. We ask that you fill those out before you leave church. If you just kind of head off with one of those folders, we call it kidnapping. And we don't want you to do that. So, St. Augustine, I was reading the breviary between Christmas and New Year's, and I read these words. Since you do not yet see God, you merit the vision of God by loving your neighbor. By loving your neighbor, you prepare your eye to see God. And I think that through some of these persons, you will train your eye to be able to see God, because you will be able to see poverty in the real world, and you will know that your few dollars a month are a tremendous help to them. Thank you, and for letting me talk so long. If you have a little patience, I'll tell you one more story. This is short. My nephew, who is now in Afghanistan, working as a civil employee for the government, told me this story because he knew what I was doing. He said, "You're out preaching, aren't you, Uncle Bob?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, you were standing on the steps of church one day and a little boy walked up and handed you a gift, and I unfolded it and it was a $5 bill. And he said, I said, "What are you doing that for?" He looked at me in all honesty, at a 3-year-old, and said, "My daddy said you're the poorest preacher and I thought you needed it." So